welcome to premiere number 16 of the Internal Map of Reality. And today we'll be continuing on with our detailed discussion of the various segments and sessions. And last week we did a peek at one of the sessions in session 1, did a clip. And we'll do the same thing today. I'm going to be picking a clip from the material in session 1, which basically deals with what are the initial components of a map, why do we have a map, and why is it important. Now, next we'll do the 1 minute meditation as normal. And remember now, the 1 minute pausing is really something you can do any time of the day. I believe the expression was, take a deep breath whenever you're feeling challenged or you want to take a break between an impulse or an urge or a desire. And you just take a deep breath and slowly let it out. Now, this is that concept, but only taken further. And why does that work? It works because we are being bombarded with inputs and we are reacting to them. And sometimes our reactions aren't really resourceful or aren't really the things that if we just took a second, we would do. We need to meditate on things. And so when you do the 1 minute meditation, you will still be bombarded with thoughts and impressions from the past, present, and future. And your task is to just acknowledge them as they come into you and then to let them go, to detach from them. And you're practicing that, and hopefully you will feel the benefit and the power of staying neutral, staying centered and relaxed and calm. And you'll want to then take that into a longer meditation. Okay, so let's get ready for the 1 minute meditation, and then we'll do the short clip followed by a discussion of that clip. Enjoy, relax, and here we go. Who were the first trends? I mentioned Napoleon Hill. Napoleon was hired by an entrepreneur, a very rich entrepreneur. I think it was J.P. Morgan, but I could be wrong. He was hired and allowed to travel the world and to interview highly successful people. And his goal that he was given, the task he was given, was to go and find what made these individuals successful. And I want to note here that he was basically going to the elite. So he was finding out what these elite, very rich and powerful people, what were they doing to be rich and powerful? And he came up with something called Principles of Success. And his particular book, Think and Grow Rich, was a huge hit. And I think it's one of the biggest selling books in history. And it's my belief that this book and his writings and his presentations shaped our modern day self-help growth community. So anyone who's big in the self-help community are probably drawing on Napoleon Hill's work. But he figured out that there were certain attributes that made successful people. And these attributes were not physical things. These were things about the individual, about the way that they perceive the world. So their internal map made them successful. They thought in a unique way. So it was the way that they thought. And this approach to becoming successful was rather revolutionary and made a huge impact. And because up to that point, it was, well, books like, Who You Know and Get Rich, What You Do and Get Rich, What Education You Have, was things that you could do other than who you thought. So I would strongly recommend, if you want to do some additional research on this, research Napoleon Hill, find some of his videos. Lots of his videos are available that he made in the 50s and 60s. A wealth of information, which we'll be coming back onto. So after Napoleon's work, that introduced the idea that there was something that people were doing inside that made them unique, that made them successful. There was some power about the way that we thought. Well, that got the attention of certain organizations, and one project that I think most of you are aware of, MK Ultra, very notorious. There were a lot of universities in Canada that were MK Ultra fronts. And this is a story that I may or may not share with you later, but my brother got caught up in an MK Ultra experiment that we later found out. Pretty devastating. But what were they trying to do with MK? They were trying to wipe people's map. They were trying to alter their maps so that they could control how the person thought about themselves and what the person did. There was that famous movie, The Manchurian Candidate, basically the power. So here you have the information that Napoleon Hill found being picked up by groups that were kind of hidden, black project type groups. And this is probably happening all over the world. So it wasn't just in the US. Any of the major agencies, security agencies, they all began aware that being able to manipulate people, you had to be able to get inside their minds. And those are all the experiments with LSD and so on that took forward. Okay, so there's a lot of work done there, but then what started to happen is special organizations began to implement aspects of this knowledge. It began to move from the very rich and powerful into the secret organizations, and then into large organizations like the Olympics. If you watch old videos of the Olympics, what you will notice is, say, take the diving. The diver will walk up to the board, pause, take a deep breath, and dive. But then there was a point in these videos, if you watch over time, as you come closer up into the 40s and 50s, I think probably more like the 60s, what you will notice is that a change. Again, using diving as an example, the diver will walk up to the diving board, walk onto the diving board, and pause and almost meditate. And it might look like, what are they doing? Well, I started to notice this too. I noticed it not just in diving, but I noticed it in other sports in the Olympics, like long distance running, hurdles, all of the Winter Olympics and the skiing, downhill skiing. These athletes were being trained to do something in preparation for their actual event. What were they doing? Well, they were actualizing the power beliefs within their map. They were stimulating the most powerful components of their map that would give them the highest likelihood of completing and being number one and being successful. There's a story which I'll share with you about how the US military used their understanding of the internal map to shorten the length of time it took for training elite snipers. The sniping school has to be probably the most difficult school there is in the military. Learning to be a rifle sniper is really difficult. And they had issues with shortening that time. There were two actual issues. They wanted to shorten the length of time it took to get master level snipers, but they also wanted to increase the number of successes because it was the course where they had the highest number of failures. Okay? They were able to increase the success rate of an individual and get more people at the mastery level by utilizing their knowledge of the internal map of reality. And we'll go into how they did that later. And finally, an area that began to spread the knowledge about the internal map of reality to the wider thing was some of the top corporations started modifying their sales techniques to be able to train their salespeople in how to talk to customers. And then you started to see sales training incorporating components of the internal map of reality. For a while, I worked for a large American computer manufacturer as sales support, technical support. And I had to take some of that sales training, and it was quite amazing to see how they could drill into a customer's mind, right? What were they doing? They were using some of the knowledge that Napoleon Hill had revealed to the population, some of the knowledge that the secret agencies such as the MK Ultra project had found out, and some of the knowledge that was coming through the elite athletes. But you see here, it's still information that's being held by the elite. The elite athletes have it, or the top-end secret agencies have it, or the high-end corporate sales organizations have it, not the customers, not the everyday to-day person. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little look into who discovered it. I find just that little section there talking about Napoleon Hill and MK Ultra, and then later the involvement of corporations in the Olympics. You can see the slow spread of that knowledge. And those of you who spend time in the truth-seeking community know that there's something going on in our society. There's a control mechanism. And I sometimes like the movie The Matrix. I will be doing a short little bonus topic. I haven't done one in a while, but I'm working on one called The False Economy. And it's my belief that the powers that be are using the knowledge that Napoleon Hill revealed and began to work on, and the information that they found from doing MK Ultra. And there are other black budget projects involving how do you control the masses. That the current in the year 2022, what you see out there is the ability to create a false economy, to make something really, really important to you as an individual. Now, if you can do that, if I can make something really, really, really important to you, and I own that thing, and I control that thing, then I control you. If it's, say if it's cigarettes, if I own the cigarettes and I get you to the point where you really need to have a cigarette multiple times a day, 15, 20, 30, 40 times a day or more, and I can control the price of the cigarettes and the access, then I control you. This is a pretty common knowledge in the commercial industry, but it goes beyond that into advertising for clothing. If I can get you needing that new style of clothes, or you needing that new car or the home, if I can raise it up into your value system, so if I can make the things that you value in your life important, super important to you, and I own them, then I own you. So a big part of the internal map of reality is discovering how to identify what is really important to you and whether or not you're being manipulated. Because in Napoleon Hill's studies, in his principles of success, way up there on top of the list, it identifies people who really believe that they can get what they want. Now, I think this is really, really important because we can lose focus on what is important to us. So in Napoleon's book, he identified how people who at that time they valued money was the measure of success. So these very wealthy people became very wealthy. So it's it's something I think that we can use this knowledge for in disconnecting from the false economy that was created by the corporations. Because again, it's my understanding that this knowledge ran through the secret black budget projects and into the high-level powerful corporations. And they are now able to create what I call the false economy. And they control what is valued. And, if you sit down quietly on a Sunday afternoon having a cup of tea, and you really take a deep breath and you think about what is really important to you, right? What do you really, really value? And it may not be anything that is on the mainstream media, TVs, and so on. If you disconnect from those, and it may end up being the simplest things in your life. So what we will be doing as we go further with this, we'll take the knowledge that Napoleon Hill and others following him developed, and we're going to drill into more knowledge of how we can benefit with this internal map of reality. And again, if you watch people who are highly successful, they are really focused on what they want. They're not caught up on the false economy. So the little section here dealt with the fact that the earliest writer, I believe, and I think I did hear there was someone either just before or around Napoleon's time that was doing similar kind of research. That wouldn't surprise me. But the most popular one is Napoleon. And you can find some videos of him. If you go on YouTube, you'll find presentations by Napoleon, and they are really, really quite fascinating and quite motivating. And then it migrating eventually to corporations. So as we know, we're under corporate control now. So how do you break from that? And I think the first part in creating a new economy, a new reality, is by understanding how we have been, I'd say, putting into the matrix, the red pill. This is the red pill. Okay, so we'll continue on, and next week what I will do is I will drill a little bit deeper into session 1. There's still a little bit more information there I want to pull out. And then we'll go into the modes of perception and how what we perceive is controlled and motivates our behavior. So feel free to reach out to me, and if you're a member of the Patreon, I will be reaching out to you. And I appreciate you taking the time and watching this premiere.